How you doing? And welcome to my channel, or welcome back to my channel. As you can see today, I'm having a look at the Batman blue and grey suit from the Flash movie. Made a brief appearance in the armory in the Flash movie. Just having a quick look at the box there, you can see we have the figure on the front there with some lightning around it to indicate that it's from the Flash movie and it's in theme with the other Flash boxes. Flash logo at the bottom, and at the side there we have the Batman blue and grey suit MMS 834, and on the back we have the usual warnings and the information about hot toys. And I'm going to take the slipcover off, and while I do that, I'd ask you to hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And you can see we have another image of the figures here with a blue filter over it, the Flash and Batman blue and grey suit written on it. So there we have it for a brief look at the box. So moving on swiftly, we will do a pan of the figure before we get into the details and the accessories. So here we are for a quick pan of the blue and grey suit Batman costume that we see very briefly in the armory in the Flash movie. And we're more used to seeing Keaton in a black suit with black cowl and cape, but I think there's arguments for why Batman is depicted in the blue and grey sometimes. For instance, the psychology of it. The blue carries a symbol of authority. For example, the best example I can give is the police wear blue, but it's also difficult to print black, and especially in the early days of the comics, very difficult, and the animation, very difficult to print pure black. So more often than not, he was accented in blue in the comic books back in the early days. This particular suit featured in Batman's armory, and it represents a period in his career which was never shown on film. The suit is heavily inspired by the Silver/Bronze Age of the comics, specifically the artwork of Neil Adams and Alex Ross, and even the utility belt adds to that weathered vintage look in design. So the thing all around is basically a homage to the Alex Ross, Neil Adams artwork, and I think it looks really well on him. And I really would have liked to have seen him in the suit in the movie, but we never got to see that. And the white lenses that were over the eyes, they feature in the movie, the white lenses over it, and I think they would have been a great feature for this figure to have those white lenses. I think it would have looked way, way, way cooler. But here we are for all of the accessories that come with the blue and grey suit Batman. And you can see there's 8 hands there in total. I've left these ones backwards or facing palm out just to show you that he does have the silver studs on the gloves, just like he does on the 89 Batsuit. And you can see that the molds are slightly different as well. There's a slight little difference in the molds. None of the molds are identical. With these open palms, we have fully open palm. We have a hand here for holding onto the grappling hook. We have 2 hands there for the batarang and 2 closed fists. And as I said, they are all different molds with the exception of the closed fists. I think they're the same. And there is a nice little bit of wash running through the gloves. There's a bit of dark wash running through the seams and the grooves just to show a bit of wear and wornness to them, which adds to the realism. And then we have his grappling gun. And anybody who has any previous Keaton Batman especially, knows that this is a reuse, folds out like that for him to hold onto it, it's the handle. And like I said, it is a reuse for previous Batman figures. And the same with this grappling hook on the rope is a reuse, and it's long enough. The rope on it is long enough, and it has that little silver ring on the end of it. And then we have his faceplates, 3 faceplates, reused again. They're reused from the 89 2.0 Batman that came out, was it last year? Last year, yeah. Beaten up one there, battle damage one with the T-Chone, the hideous duck face one that I don't think anybody likes or uses, and then the closed mouth stoic kind of look. As I said, reused from the 2.0 89 Batman that came out last year. Painted really well. My only gripe with these is they're not immediately Michael Keaton looking. They could have made him look a bit better, look more like Michael Keaton, but they're good enough. They do the job, but I hate that one in the middle. It looks like It looks like he's had some lip fillers put in there. So there we are for all of the accessories and attachments. So moving on, let's take a look at the base. So here we are for the base. Classic rectangular Hot Toys base, blue and grey Batsuit written on the front of it. If the light catches it right, you can see that. And we have options here for display. If I just take this pole out here, you can see that one of the options here is the Batsuit, the bat symbol. And this is the Batman Returns symbol, if I'm not mistaken. It's not the same as the emblem on his chest. It has the extra legs on it, as most people know. So a bit odd that they've put the Batman Returns emblem on a figure base that has the 89 Batman logo on it. So it's very odd choice. And then we have this option here for like a grill or a weathered grill effect on it. And then the plain black base at the bottom. So you do have options. They're stickers, yeah. So you can choose which display you want, which design you want. Like I said, a little bit odd that this doesn't match what's on his chest. I'll just reach over and grab him there. You can see that he has the 89 on the chest plate there, and the 92 on this here, which is most bizarre. So there we have it for the base. So moving on to the figure itself. And here we are for the grey and blue suit Batman, standing pretty much straight up as he comes out of the box. And in my usual form, we'll work our way up from bottom to top, and then we'll just move this cape out of the way so we can have a look at his boots. And there's a bit of a shine off them there, as you can see. There's a lot of light on them, and there's a bit of a shine. I hope it's not impairing what you can see. The whole suit kind of has a bit of a shimmer off it when it hits the light. My biggest gripe with these boots are, they are one complete boot. There's no split in them, which I usually like. But because of this seam along here, I think they could have put in a split boot there, which would have made this a lot better. Because as you can see there, if I try and articulate his ankle, it won't. It just goes back to its original position, which is a bit of a pain for pose and an absolute pain for even trying to get him to stand freely, because he's top heavy. He just likes to lean forward on those very weak ankles. They could have ratcheted the joint in there and made those ankles a bit stronger and made them a bit more poseable. The boots themselves are done quite well. There's a bit of scuffing on them, a bit of wear and weathering on them to make them look used and beaten. And there is a molded grip on the sole as well, which looks the part. But like I said, major issue with the fact that they just don't articulate. Moving up to his legs, the colour of them is quite on point for, you know, what we see in the movie. They're like a slate grey. They're made of the same material that the modern suit Batman is made of, as far as I can tell. It's a very thin, rubberish kind of feel to it. The stitching running up the inside of the leg isn't great. I've seen better. It's not fantastic. It's acceptable, but it seems like it's under a lot of stress there. It's almost like it's trying its best to split. The knee pads, as you can see there, do have a big relief on them there. They're not molded into the suit, and they are actually velcroed in, which I was just saying in one of my last videos that I think Hot Toys are moving away from the velcro, but there we go. I've just been proven wrong by this figure here. And they also have this little patch on the side of them there. Now, I think the pre-production images of this suit, or the prototype, it looked like there was a bulging pocket coming out the side. So they've kind of printed this patch on the side here to make it, you know, look that way. But if I'm not mistaken, there was like a pocket or a pouch on the concept piece that they used in the movie. There is a bit of muscle definition in there underneath the suit. You can see there's a nice bit of muscle definition in under there, which looks the part, looks really good. Moving up to his pants, his Superman pants that he's wearing. They're not too bad. There's a little bit of wash running through all the grooves to make them look a bit grubby. There's scrapes all over them. You can see this area here, which is an odd place to have all those scrapage. But he does have some scuffing, and even on the back, they are. If I can move that cape out of the way, there is a bit of scuffing and scraping on them as well at the back, as well, and they are attached at the bottom by a piece of elasticated cord or band, and I'm not sure how that effective would be in a one-to-one real life application. I'm sure they would have been a full pant, but Hot Toys have just attached it with that piece of elasticated cord. So then we have his belt. As I said in the pan of the figure, very retro looking. These old yellow pouches. There's quite a lot of scuffing and weathering done to them. A lot of wash in those seams, and they're very classic and vintage looking. Even the buckle on the front is quite vintage looking in my opinion, and really adds to that aesthetic and that look that they're going for. And around the back of the belt we have the continuation of this yellow belt, but there's no weathering or scuffing or a wash in it. It's just a plain old yellow belt going around the back. Not necessary, we won't be looking at it. But the front of it, I'm quite impressed with the amount of wash and detail put into them. Non-functioning pouches, I will add, but still, they look the part and they look very vintage, just like the figure should, or the suit should, because they are playing off that vintage look. I might add as well that the top of the legs are ratcheted. The knees aren't, but the top of the leg is ratcheted to hold a pose if you want to do any dynamic posing. The elbows are ratcheted, and the shoulders are ratcheted in only one direction. They're not ratcheted in the upward and downward motion, but in the lateral motion, they are ratcheted. The front of the suit here is very smooth. It's a very nice texture, and I really wish they had have made the 2.0 '89 Batman look more like this, and less of that avocado skin looking effect that they done to it. Now I know it was at a very different suit and a very different time, and the suit, the '89 suit, was textured. I'm not going over it again, but it was textured, but it wasn't as textured as the Hot Toys rendition of it. So I would have liked it to have looked a bit more like this, less textured, to make it look a bit more screen accurate. Like I said, this is probably a little bit too smooth, but somewhere in the middle would have been ideal. In regard to the longevity of the suit, I can imagine I've raised that arm up a couple of times for posing, and there is a small little crease in it. If I can get it to focus, I do have a small little crease line here. If I was to keep that in a pose for a long time, I'm pretty sure there would be a definite imprint of a crease there. So, just like most Batman figures, he's not the most posable, and especially with those ankle joints, they're pathetic. You can kind of see the groove there in the arm there, where the suit sinks in. Now it's like an allowance for it to bend, because that's an indent where the joint is, that separates the forearm from the upper arm. So it does kind of sink in there a bit more than it would if it was one-to-one, if there was a real, true to scale human in there. It's just a little bit indented there where the gap for the joint is. Not the end of the world, it's not egregious. A little bit an indent on the back of the elbow as well when you straighten the arm, and maybe over time you'd worry about that have a permanent crease in it as well. So there we have it. As for the bat symbol, that is the '89 bat emblem. As I mentioned, it's not the '92, it's the '89 that they've put on it, and it seems to be more rounded off than oval shaped. The 89 one is a bit more oval shaped than this one. This one seems to be a more of a circular shape to it. The cape is wired, unfortunately, for 5 wires running through it, and I am not a fan of wired capes at all. I think if these companies are going to give people wired capes, they should also give us a drape cape. And because this was cut to such a limited figure, I think it was 1500, if my memory serves me correctly, I can't see anybody really doing a custom cape for this figure. I can't see Jackson Shoe. I've been pronouncing his name wrong for a long time, calling him Jackson Zoo, but apparently his name is pronounced Shoe. It's Jackson Shoe. So, apologies to Jackson for mispronouncing his name for so long. But yeah, the cape won't get customized. The gauntlets on his arms are a reuse of the 89, just repurposed, repainted. Another reuse. They are, they do have little gouges and a bit of damage running through them to make them look used and battered a bit of scuffing in certain areas and a bit of wash running through them, just in uniform with the pants and the boots. And looking at the back of him there, we do have a zip. Let me actually pull this head sculpt off and we get a better look at that. There we go. Same design as the 89 Batman, as you can see there, for how the head sculpt goes on. The neck peg goes up into the sculpt, and there is a zip running all the way up the back of it there, just for getting the suit on and off, I suppose. Covered up by the cape, so no big deal, not the end of the world. But like I said, and a bit of Velcro at the front there, just for holding the cape in position. Not a major fan of those wired capes, but it is what it is. And anybody who's seen the promo pictures knows that the new Batman Returns 2.0 head sculpt does fit on this one, the uncowled one. I don't have it in hand yet. I'm still waiting on Sideshow to get it in stock and send it to me. Actually, I have 2 of the deluxe ones coming because I want both looks. So let's get them a bit more stable, and we will have a look at this head sculpt a bit closer and go through some of the finer details. Just showing you real quick as well, real crudely actually, in the promo pictures, in the blogger pictures, it showed as if it could be posed without the mouth plate and the eyes to make it look like an empty cowl. That cannot be done. That was false advertisement, in my opinion, when those blogger pictures showed it as if it could be posed as an empty cowl, which is unfortunate. Would have liked to have had an option for that, because if we get the rest of the suits from the armory, then I would like to pose them that way. But here we are with the head sculpt for the Batman from the Flash movie. Like I said, the emblem is the same as the 89, except it's a slightly different shape. It's more rounded off than oval shaped like the 89 one. The cowl is almost the same, but I think, no, I don't have the 89 at hand, but I think the 89 one's a little bit wider, if I'm not mistaken. And these little indents here that come in on the side below the chin are different to the 89. They're not present on the 89, so it is slightly different in that sense. And moving up, I suppose, to the sculpt itself, and you can see that another thing that I'll point out, and that was a real point of contention when this figure was announced, is the lines in his forehead, the indents, or the frown, as you would call it. In hand, it's not too bad. It's not too bad. Would it have looked better without it? Probably yes, but it is accurate to the design of this suit with what we were presented with in the Flash movie, with the exception of the white lenses. So they took some details out and added some details in. So I don't know what their thought process is. Like I said, if you look closely in the movie, they have white lenses over the eyes, and I really would have liked to have seen the white lenses, or white lens option. They're exactly the same as the 89 eyes, same eyeballs, same color, and the dark paint around the charcoalish kind of dark makeup that's around his eyes. I want to say black, but it's not quite a black. It's like a charcoal. You can kind of see some flesh tones in under there as well. But yeah, the white lenses, if they'd just put the white lenses on this figure, it would have made all of the difference. And it would have looked really badass if they'd just made it that little bit more accurate and put those lenses in like we did see in the movie. And again, I don't think we're going to see an aftermarket custom of this because he was so limited. The sculpt kind of looks like it was modelled around the 89. You know, it looks very like the 89, just with some different, elements added to it. The faceplates, like I said, are a copy of the 89. It doesn't really, in my opinion, have the pouty lips that Michael Keaton has. This is obviously the closed mouth faceplate that he has out of the box. The ears on it are about the same height as the 89. I'm pretty sure they're the same height. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it's the same sculpt, just slightly changed for this suit. And at the back there, we have the shape of it there coming down and into the center where it meets the cape at the center. And like I said, just not as textured as the 89. It's really, really smooth. Overall, I'm still quite pleased with this figure. I'm glad to have a Keaton in the retro classic blue and grey. Quite pleased to have it. I didn't want the Christian Bale one. I thought that metallic colour was terrible. They should have stuck with a more traditional blue like this. I do believe the Christian Bale one looks better in hand, though I've never seen it in hand, but apparently it does look better in hand. And I do want to say that this one here does look better in hand than the promo pictures. You can see there's a little bit of airbrushing in between the eyebrows, just to give a bit of darkness there as well, or a little bit of weathering or whatever it is. But like I said, I just would have liked to have seen those white lenses as an option. Or again, as the blogger pictures put out falsely, showed us that he could be posed with the empty cowl look, just like it stood in the movie. Not true. Can't be done, which is extremely unfortunate. If you take the faceplate off, as I showed you, there's blue plastic, in the middle there, and we could obviously see his eyes. So you can't pose him like an empty cowl, which is unfortunate. If Hot Toys are going to give us the rest of the armory, I would have liked to have been able to pose them in that semicircle with the empty cowls and have the Flash figure in the middle of it, the modern suit in the middle, just like it is in the movie. And I can't see a custom coming around for a limited piece of 1500. So let's kind of have a look at the custom Jackson Shoe 89 Batman faceplate that I got off him there a while ago. And anybody who's seen my review, I do have a review on my channel, and if I think about it, I'll put a link up in the corner there, or a card up in the corner. And I think this faceplate fits as far as I know. And there we go. That faceplate does indeed fit on him. And you guys can decide, you guys can tell me whether this is a better faceplate. It's very pale compared to the Hot Toys one, but I think the lips look more accurate. They're definitely more accurate in colour to Michael Keaton back in the day. And yeah, I really like this actually. I'm starting to think, looking at this, that this is a better faceplate to use. And I might just end up picking up another one of these if I can, and display him with this faceplate. I think this is possibly a better option for him. And it fits, and that goes to show you, even with that fitting in there, that this is a revised version of the 89 2.0 cowl. The fact that this faceplate and the other three faceplates slot in and fit in. And it does kind of prove that it is the 89 cowl with some minor tweaks to it. And those lines in the forehead put in. So again, you guys can decide which you think is the better option for the faceplates. So quickly before we wrap things up here, I've just put the three face plates beside each other just to show you how they look on the figure. And I put them in a list of my favourite ones, basically the battle damage one with the grin on his face on the left hand side, to the stoic one, down to the one that I absolutely will not be using, which is the goofy looking face. And I think most people would agree it is the worst one and would be staying in the box for most people that have the figure. And then I've just put the Jackson shoe one on the right hand side here, just to compare it to the closed mouth look of the Hot Toys one on the right hand side. Definitely more detail in the Hot Toys one, definitely more paint in the Hot Toys one. I just think the lips on the Jackson shoe one look way more accurate to Michael Keaton and look more like Michael Keaton. I would have liked to have seen Hot Toys paint that sculpt, and it would have been perfect. So there we have it for the Hot Toys blue and grey suit Batman from the Flash movie. Not the most posable figure in the world without risking creasing the suit, as is the case with all Batman figures. So I'll leave it there. Please don't hesitate to hit that like and subscribe button if you did like the content and you'd like to see some more. And if you've made it this far, thank you very much for watching right to the end, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care.